there's something that specifically you have questions over that I can go over, make sure to write that down, because I want to answer your questions directly. Because we've had a lot of pointed things at us recently that are actually under false pretense, and I'm going to make sure addressed. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, who am I? So I'm Moses Druxam. I've been in the fire service for approximately 15 years, maybe 16 now, I don't know. We're counting. Closer to my mouth, is that better? Yeah. All right. So I started my career with the Easel Fire Department, and after about 4 or 5 years there, 3 years there, I decided the fire service was not for me. My mother told me to get out of it. She didn't want me in public safety. Well, after that, I decided to not listen to my mother, and I would go back into the fire service. So I went to Briar Fire Department, where I volunteered. And a couple years into that, Briar was approached by Reno and Pelican Bay to form one fire department, and sanctuary was already covered by the city of Reno Fire Department, or Reno Volunteer. So at that time, we all merged our agencies together. It was about 8 years ago. And 6 years ago, I was tasked with running the operations of this department. At that time, we were completely volunteer staff. We were looking at having staff Monday through Friday with an on-call person from, I think it was 7 to 5. We did that for a little bit, and then we realized about the time of COVID, call volumes are too high. We can't do this anymore. So at that point, we transitioned from compensated volunteers to paid staff around the clock. At that point, we had 2 persons per shift. That's not true, we had 1 person per shift every day of the week. And then we started working on funding to go to 2. We made it to 2 persons per shift. And then in 2022, we increased to 22-23 budget. We increased to a minimum of 3 persons per shift, and then compensated volunteers. Today, we've got nearly 30 personnel on staff. We operate out of 2 fire stations. In November, December timeframe, we opened our second paid fire station in Tarrant County. Reno was our main station until that time. In 2023, I requested approximately $150,000 from Tarrant County for staffing. Tarrant County was well aware that that fire truck was going to come from Reno because our fire station in Briar was uninhabitable. Well, last year I approached Tarrant County ESD1 again for additional staffing, and they granted us that money. Today we get $667,000 a year for staffing. That goes directly to personnel in Tarrant County. We get funding from the city of Reno and the city of Pelican Bay to staff Reno Sanctuary and Pelican Bay. Now, typically, as in all fire departments that have multiple stations, if you have a critical incident that requires more than 1 engine company, that second engine is going to respond. So last year, we were lucky enough to open that second station and to be more self-efficient than we've ever been. Our minimum staffing today is 4 per shift, which puts us above at the ISO requirements. Typically, our average is 5.5 persons per shift. How does that work? Well, that works because Tarrant County technically pays for 2.5 persons, which means 2 full-time and 1 part-time position. And in Reno, we have enough funding through a grant that we secured to staff another part-time position. So normally, to be honest with you, you've got about 6 firefighters, 3 in Tarrant, 3 in Parker, and then 2 full-time chiefs. Our chiefs are also on call. We take a rotating schedule every single week, even though we may still show up, because that's what we do. By doing this, we weren't using Tarrant County money to pay for Reno. And that's been a rumor that I'm going to completely dispel. And if you don't believe me, we can walk to my office after this meeting and I'll print you a copy of my budget. Because until 2022, Tarrant County only paid us approximately $135,000 to run Tarrant County, which was our highest call volume community. Reno paid more money for lower call volume. I think you guys are smart enough to do the math. Tarrant County funds are not being used to pay for Reno. We'll be very clear with that. And I think that needs to be understood. When we opened that second station, it gave us the opportunity to split our district correctly and separate those funds the way it needed to be. Now, 2 years ago in August of 2023, I came to council and I gave a report on the water department. And when I gave that report, I told council, we need another full-time position, or you need to fix your water infrastructure. We came to an agreement that council would give us funds for a part-time person, and they would start working towards fixing the water infrastructure. And I know Mayor Boss has been working on that. It's not an easy task, because I worked with Mayor White before that, and Mayor Stokes before that, and Mayor Hunter before that. I'm well aware of the critical water infrastructure. So anyway, that's kind of an overview of how we got to where we are. So why do we support this city? Well, more than 60% of the staff that works here actually lives here. If they don't live here, they live in the Azle area. I live in unincorporated Tarrant County on Power Squadron Road, if you want to drive by. That's in this response district. I'm 10 minutes from this building. The other staff grew up in this community, and we only have 2 or 3 that are not from here. We understand that Reno is in a crucial point financially. We are respectful of that, and we are dedicated to working with the city, government, whomever it may be, because we know the city will be here, to adjust our budget as we need to, and to work together to make sure that your fire protection does not change, that it does nothing but continue to improve. I've been the chief for 4 years. We've gone from 1 person paid per day was volunteers, to 4 minimum per day. Now we've got 2 paid chiefs, and we're running 6 on average, 5.5, you do the math, okay? We are doing nothing but making strides. So some of the things that we do that are a little different than other Parker County agencies. In the EMS world, there are things called priority calls, 1, 2, and 3. 1 being the highest, 2 being the middle, and 3 being the lowest. There's technically a 4, but we won't worry with that. Any EMS call that is dispatched in our response area, our personnel respond. Priority 4, 3, 2, or 1. No matter what, a fire truck is going. We are only one of 2 agencies in Parker County that does that. The other one is the Azle Fire Department. The reason is because I have personal experience of a priority 3 call being dispatched for a headache, and by the time we get there, the person's in cardiac arrest. Parker County Hospital District's policy is, if it's a priority 3 call, they don't run lights and sirens. Okay? You can call, you complain your head hurts, maybe you've got some nausea or acid reflux, and 10 minutes later you're in cardiac arrest. Well, that ambulance is coming from Springtown. Well, let's say, by the way, because Springtown is the 2nd busiest station in Parker County Hospital District, that they're not available. You're coming from Silver Creek or Peace or Poolville. So I think it's pretty damn important that you have a fire truck on all priority medical calls, emergent. Because the last thing I want is to lose a citizen or somebody that's in this community. Almost every shift that we have today has a paramedic on that shift. 2 of our 3 shifts have paramedics. In the EMS world, there are EMTs and paramedics, is what we're going to talk about. Well, paramedics can do a lot more skills than an EMT. Our goal in the next few years, depending upon what the citizens decide, is to transition to what's called an ALS system, Advanced Life Support. That allows us to carry narcotics, monitors, and a lot more technology than what we currently have today, just in case that ambulance is behind, so that we can do stuff before they get there, because typically we're closer. We're already working towards it. We're writing grants towards it. We're writing the policies towards it. I think that's pretty important, don't you? We also have a fire marshal's office. Our fire marshal's office does over 200 inspections a year. We have a fire code in the city of Reno, which is the 2018 code. And in Pelican Bay, yes, they do have some businesses. We have the 2021 code. Where is that important? Well, in counties and communities, that's not good. In counties and communities that don't have a fire code, the fatality death is actually higher. Parker County, correct me if I'm wrong, Judge, does not have a fire code. Tarrant County has a fire code, and once you lose your city that you have today, guess what? Your fire code's gone. So what does that mean? Platting changes, This county has subdivision rules, and they're pretty good, they're pretty generic, but they're limited on what they do because they are the county. You lose local control when you lose this city. You lose your local fire code. He has to worry about more than just Reno when it comes to adopting a fire code. Well, what do? We worry about Reno, where we're currently sitting. We can adopt that code, which is what we did, appropriate to this city. Last year, we were tasked by council to talk about fireworks. And we have a really split community here who loves their fireworks and a split community who hates their fireworks. I tasked our fire marshal with coming up with a policy that allowed people to shoot fireworks at certain time frames. We chase fireworks every single year in all 4 of our communities. That's all we do for about 3 or 4 days a year. And I will tell you, this year it was better, but those that were shooting fireworks after those allotted times, they were told, hey, do it again, you're getting a citation. Because we set in there an ordinance that said, you can only shoot your fire code during this time, or shoot your fireworks during this time. You lose the city, you lose the ability to control that. Several years ago, when we were in a severe drought, our office partnered with the Parker County Fire Marshal's office, and we took the entire north side of Parker County. And I will tell you, for a week straight during the emergency declaration, Chief Marlowe and I ran all over this county chasing firework calls, telling people stop shooting fireworks, because we had so many fires. That's what you're going to deal with if you lose local control. Face it, that's where it's headed. Response times, let's back up. Let's talk about local knowledge. So I talked about over 60% of our staff is from here. Well, that says something about who's running your calls and who's coming to your house. Our staff is very aggressive in pre-planning because they're required to, but they drive these streets regularly because that's what I task them with. And those who are learning through those pre-plans may already have been here their entire life, and they know. If Linda calls me and says, hey, Pat's cows are out, and the police department's busy, can you go pick them up? Sure. I will tell you that last year we went down to the corner of Old Reno and South Reno many times to chase cattle, and I will tell you that I am not good at chasing cattle. But my staff is pretty good at it. That's what you lose if you lose the city. That's what you lose if you lose the fire department. There's been some concerns and critiques because we use Tarrant County Fire Alarm as our dispatch. Let me clarify something. Before I became chief, we had entered into an agreement with Tarrant County Fire Alarm for fire dispatch services. And the reason is because honestly, they were state of the art, just like Parker County Fire Alarm is. Parker County probably is, at the time, was behind. Now I think they're a little bit more advanced. But it was more affordable because we run 4 communities and we were able to work out a deal because they charge you per call. And so it was cheaper on the Tarrant County side. Well, something that wasn't anticipated by previous administrations was, well, if somebody in Reno calls 911, it's got to go from Parker County to Tarrant County, so how do we do that quickly? Well, now we have an app called Active 911, and it's been in effect for quite some time because I made it my mission when I took over operations. If there is a call, an EMS call dispatched in Reno, that app goes off in Tarrant County at the exact same time. So you're talking 30 seconds from the time the dispatcher takes the phone call, enters it into the computer, Tarrant County is already getting the call. Before that, it was almost an 8-minute transfer time. Today, it's simultaneous. If we don't get the app, my crews that are here, they monitor Parker County Hospital District calls, and they make sure that, hey, we're responding. Why? Because medical calls are 75 to 80% of what we do. So there is no issues. I have no issues with Parker County Fire Alarm. I really don't. I like Parker County Fire Alarm, and I looked at it, I believe, a year and a half ago at considering transferring because I wanted to see if it was a better option. Financially, it wasn't. This year in the budget, we actually brought down the fire dispatch $4,000, and next year I'm doing another $4,000. We're being fiscally responsible, and we're being responsible with your dispatch service. There is no delay. There's people in this room that we have saved their lives, and I can promise you, their call went through Tarrant County Fire Alarm. Our fire marshal's office, we're going to talk about, we have a law enforcement based fire marshal's office, okay? Which means nearly every member of our fire marshal's office is law enforcement. And we have the fire code that we enforce, we have local laws that we help to enforce, and we mutual aid Reno Police Department, Pelican Bay Police Department, Parker County Sheriff's Office, Tarrant County Sheriff's Office, Hazel Police Department. I have a love for the fire marshal's office, and I have since I was 16 years old. I'm kind of obsessed with it, to be completely honest with you. I think it's one of the better parts of the fire service. Why? Because it saves lives just like EMS does. It's fire prevention. You educate people when you tell them how to burn safely, how to shoot fireworks safely, how to operate their lives in a safe manner so they don't lose their home. Our fire marshal's office, and I can attest that in 2 months' time, we had 3 critical incidents. I consider them critical, where one of them I'll speak to. It was a person with a possible gun who had intentionally set a fire and had barricaded himself inside of an RV while fire personnel were there extinguishing the fire. I was called, Chief Marlowe was called, we were both there within about 10-15 minutes. We get on scene of the incident and realize that we dealt with a guy 2 days before, maybe a day before, on a motor vehicle accident near that location. The guy has some mental health issues, okay? We're aware of that. Because of his location and where the RV was, it wasn't safe for just the 2 officers to approach, in my opinion. So I requested help. I called Sergeant Gonzalez and I said, hey, this is what I got. It's in the city. What do you suggest? He said, call the sheriff's office. It'd be the fastest. So I did. And I was told, here in the city of Reno, you'll have to have a Reno officer show up. And I said, this is a possible violent offender who committed a felony, who may have a firearm. We've already had history with him. I need an officer. And I was told, we are not sending an officer. Sergeant Gonzalez doesn't live in the city. Don't expect him to, okay? Unless the city wants to pay for him to relocate, which I wouldn't expect. So what did I do? I called Hazel Police Department. The Hazel Police Department sent us a backup unit because Parker County Sheriff's Office would not. Now I got a call later in the evening that told me they were busy and they apologized and this wouldn't happen again. It's happened 2 more times in this city in that time period. If you abolish your city, you lose that. Not having 24-hour police coverage, you lose that. Not having a fire department with a fire marshal's office who is law enforcement based, you lose that. Let's talk about ISO. I've been very, very critiqued over ISO. So let's be very, 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 very clear on some things. I've been the fire chief for 4 years. Within 4 years, we've gone from, a year, we've gone from 7 full-time, including myself, to 15, okay? Including that part-time position. I include our part-time position as a full-time because it's staffed full-time. The first 2 years of my career here as chief was to get things organized and to see where we were, because I was not the chief before that. In 2023, beginning of 2024, I met with ISO and I said, here's the records I have, which were not electronic. Here's the information I have. Here's the hydrants that have not been tested. Here's what I've got. And he says, you need to do all of these things and then re-rate you. My goal was to have that done by summer of last year. Well, I didn't know that in March, Tarrant County was going to give me to double my staff. And I apologize to each and every one of you that your ISO rating is still being re-rated. But I didn't know I was going to get extra firefighters and double my staff. And there was only at the time 1 person in admin. Chief Marlowe didn't move to admin until the summer. It's a lot of responsibility, and I was a little over my head. So I'm sorry for the person who thinks I owe them $1,000 per year because of their ISO rating. What I can tell you today is that because of that doubling of staff last year, because that opening of a second station, because of the hydrant testing we've done, the fire code that we adopt, your ISO rating is expected to be between a 4 and a 6. I have to give you a range because I can't promise you either way. I can't until it's done. The city of Hazel is a 4. So this rumor that you're gonna have a 3 if we go away isn't true. It's not. Over 50% of the city of Reno is more than 5 road miles from the next closest fire station from here. If this fire station closed today, and you went with another fire station, more than 50% of the city is more than 5 road miles. If you're over 5 road miles, you don't get that same benefit that the people within that 5 road miles gets. Sorry, but you don't. It's not how it works. The truck that's currently on a rack on the highway is a tanker. It's 1,750 gallons of water. It is not 3,000 gallons.